Hey guys, and welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host, Vlhadus, and this is not Walter Cronkite, nor is it Ron Burgundy. I'm going to be doing a policeman motif for Halloween, and so my wife wanted me to see what I would look like this, so this is why I'm like this. But today, I got a very special guest with me. His name is Adam Baird. What's going on, Adam?
Not much. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, man.
It's actually Adam Baird.
Oh.
I'm gonna correct you right off the bat. But that's okay.
No, I'm glad. I butcher names all the times. Adam Baird.
No, that's okay. I actually wish it was Adam Baird. That'd be pretty cool. Goes along with the sort of MMO feel. So
no, for sure. And Adam, honestly, when I came onto the scene, pretty much what was it, like in November of 2021? And this is when I started to really look at different Ashes of Creation content creators. I came across a couple of your videos, and again, me just falling really deep in love with Ashes. Like, I just kind of started subscribing to every single person that was creating content for Ashes of Creation. And so I guess before we go right into the whole, like, why you started doing Ashes content or whatever, can you give me like a little bit of a breakdown of like your kind of gaming history, like your MMO history?
Yeah. Well, MMO, I mean, I've been playing video games ever since like way back in the day, Nintendo 64.
Yes.
But MMO history, my first MMO ever was RuneScape. And then I got really I played Warcraft 3 with my friends a lot.
Nice.
And then I went to the store and I was trying to buy Warcraft, but I ended up buying World of Warcraft. And it gave me 1 month free play. And when I booted it up, I was like, what the heck? Like, this doesn't look like anything I remember. And I was like, well, I already bought it. Like, why don't I just play and see how it goes? And I was hooked. I played World of Warcraft for like a really long time. That was back in the Burning Crusade, so pretty early on. So yeah, mainly World of Warcraft. I mean, I've played all the new ones that come out for like a little bit, but
right, like I'm sure like New World, Lost Ark,
or yeah. So, and none of those I really stuck with very well. I actually didn't play Lost Ark, but I played New World. I played like all those like lame blessed ones. I played so
okay, well, that's good.
So, yeah.
I mean, so I'm just curious, like, how did you find out about Ashes of Creation? Were you a part of the whole Kickstarter, or did you find out whenever I found out, kind of like in July of 2020 with the Lazy Peon video? Or
100% Lazy Peon. Yeah, I watched that video and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
At that point, I was playing World of Warcraft with BFA, and I actually quit because of all the pay to win that was happening. And I was working so hard and like grinding myself to earn money by gathering and like professions and stuff like that. And then I realized how bad the multi-boxing and I was trying to get the long boy mount, the auction house dinosaur mount. And I was working so hard, and every day just on my own gathering and professions, I was earning like 150K, which is pretty good. And so I thought, like, hey, in a month's time I'll be able to buy this mount and I'll feel accomplished because like I went out and I did all the work and research.
Right.
And then Blizzard out of nowhere announced that they were actually going to discontinue it in 2 weeks, getting ready for the expansion. And so I lost like all hope because my trajectory was I was going to get it in a month. And when they announced that, everyone started just buying WoW tokens to purchase them out. This is like not your question at all. This is like
no, I love it. Like, keep
random.
going.
But everyone started buying WoW tokens to purchase them out, and they would just purchase it and buy gold. And it totally took all the fun out of it for me, because in my head I was like, wow, like just with a couple hours of work in real life, I could just pay for this mount, or I could play the game for a month and like I was gonna try to do and get them out. And it made me realize how inefficient like me playing the game was, because I could just pay for it. So I just quit. I just quit right then and there. I had like I had purchased the next expansion. I had a whole bunch of like time in the game already
Hmm.
purchased, but I was done. And then right when I quit because I was so mad, that's when I saw this is me bringing it around to answer your question, but I saw the Lazy Peon video about Ashes of Creation, and yeah, I was hooked. Like I think I was more hooked on Steven's um, design and look on the game.
Hmm.
No pay to win. It had all the features I was looking for. Big emphasis on professions and systems, and yeah, so I was hooked after that.
Honestly, like every person that I talk to, because I'm a WoW Andy too, playing WoW for 15 years. And it's like everybody that I come across just really wants to invest their time into another like World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people that have been
Yeah,
playing this singular game for so long, you know, I've had my ups and downs with Blizzard. I think every WoW person has. You know, for me, I always felt this super toxic, vitriolic relationship between the developers at Blizzard and the players. And I think this is like the first time that the developers are finally starting to understand where we're coming from, and I don't care. Like it's so funny. Like it's just like and all the time that I cared so deeply and wanted them to invest in us and to like really like talk to us. Now I'm ambivalent. Like I don't care. Like I am not
oh, you
gonna.
mean like the WoW devs are finally turning a leaf in
Right.
some way? Is what
They're
you're
they,
saying?
they really are. Like
Yeah.
they're listening to the community. I mean, there's some things they're listening to, some other things are not, but they're probably listening to the community more so now than they ever have been. And again, like I feel like my time at WoW is done. And I
Yeah.
have every single class maxed out. I have so much mount, so many transmog pieces. Like my warrior pretty much has all the tier sets. Like I have all the transmog that I could possibly want. And I
Hmm.
just I don't care. Like I love the time that I
Yeah.
played. I mean I made so many great friendships, so many good things that I got from playing WoW. But I feel like my time is sort of setting, right? Like my time has set. And I look at Ashes of
Hmm.
Creation in this like in almost the same kind of kid way that I looked at WoW back in that time. Is like, wow, like this is the game that I could potentially put in the next 15 years of my time into. And I think for a lot of MMO players, especially casuals, like I think they're just wanting something new. So, I mean, to kind of, you know, were you making your YouTube content like beforehand, like when the Lazy Pen was video was released, or
Yeah. Well, so my sort of like main goal is to perform in live streams and stuff. So that's kind of how it's
right?
been from the beginning. And I graduated college as an acting major. So I
Oh,
really like
dang.
acting, performing. And so the majority of my first videos are just about acting, and I was doing like how-to videos. But then I quickly realized that's not what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like full time, I don't want to be like a how-to person.
Right,
And so I started. So I actually changed my YouTube channel's name to just my name, Adam Baird, and
right.
now I make videos about whatever I want. So, um, but yeah, so I was making a bunch of random videos before Ashes of Creation came out. I say a bunch. I probably had like 30 videos out, and then Ashes of Creation came out, and I've made even more. So
Right. And I guess like to you, like what was it about World of Warcraft like back then that grabbed you, that like made you want to keep playing? Was it this social interaction? Was it, you know, just almost like upgrading yourself? Because I know RuneScape is like, you know, it's not
yeah,
exactly like
yeah.
graphically awesome, you know, but there is so much to it. So I'm just curious as to like what hooked you like when you were playing WoW.
It was just character progression and like exploring storytelling.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not like a huge RPer, but I do tend to like want to participate in that sort of like major events. So
Right.
like I remember dungeons the first time I do dungeons pretty well, not because of like the loot or anything, but because of just like the experience.
Right.
I thought it was just really fun exploring and like learning. Um, I love collecting. So I mean, MMOs are perfect for that. A million things to collect. So,
For sure.
um, yeah. So that was mainly why I was drawn to WoW.
Okay. The only reason why I was asking is because, I have friends of mine that are really trying to capture, kind of like the social interaction they had back then, in today's landscape. And I think with things like, Discord and just other things, I think we have become more social than ever, but yet as antisocial too. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of MMOs that kind of promote the solo gameplay and just play by yourself because it's the best way, the most efficient way. No one can drag you down. It's all on you to get the progression. And I feel like with Ashes, we're kind of going back to this very community driven, server driven progression. And I don't know how people are really going to like that. And I'm just curious because like with you, like, are you kind of craving that kind of more socialness? And, especially because you're a Twitch streamer, right? Like, do you think something like that is going to really hit in 2022?
When you were saying all that, I kind of thought like there's no other really kind of game that has as much social interaction as MMORPGs. Um,
True.
um, so so that's a tough question. Like, not even real MMORPGs nowadays have that social aspect. I think, like for RuneScape, for example, you can play the majority of it solo.
Mhm.
It's only like those few key moments where you're like, hey, I may need help, or I need to trade, or I need to partner with someone to do this. That's when you like reach out and form a social relationship.
Right.
And it's usually outside resources that are facilitating that. So Discord or
Right.
like Twitch, like you mentioned Twitch. Like Twitch's community is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And you could like, but everyone on Twitch uses Discord, So
Yeah.
I actually think that is probably going to be one of the biggest things why people don't play Ashes of Creation is because of the lean on old-fashioned values with community and
Mhm.
communication that way. And yeah, because right now they're not planning on doing like a group finder or
Nope.
anything like that. So you're gonna have to find your own way of doing it. And in the game chat is one way, but I think people are just gonna turn towards Discord servers to try to
Right.
find groups. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think a lot of gamers will be turned off by that because no other games are forcing you to get onto Discord really to
Right.
form relationships. And I know like in Ashes of Creation you can do chat and like
Right.
in any MMORPG you can like chat with people, but Ashes may be one of the big ones that forces you to find a community outside of the game.
Right.
So
and
I don't know.
And my whole thing is that I feel like it's about time that we have a game like this because there hasn't been anything recently to break the mold and to really set MMOs in a different course. Like everybody, like it's almost like all of the developers and all the publishers, we have New World's developers, we have WoW's developers, we have BDOs, we have Guild Wars 2, and everyone's on the single player mentality. And there's no one else that's deviating off the path. And I just feel that with Ashes doing what it's doing, I think it could rub people the wrong way initially. Initially, people might have their reservations. However, because this isn't probably going to be a game where you can go from 1 to max level in a single day. This is also a game where you're also probably going to need people with you to do certain things, whether it's group quests, whether it's just like if you love professions, you may not want to go by yourself to go gather your professions. You know what I mean? And I think people aren't used to making friends in MMOs anymore, which is so weird to say out loud because that's exactly what people played MMOs back then. If you were to say that 10 years ago, people would look at you weird. Because of course, like people, like I met so many awesome people in World of Warcraft, whether it was through the guild system, whether it was just through LFR, or not LFR, but just like the like looking for group system, and Yeah, like I'm still friends with them to this day. Like we've been friends for almost like 12 years, 10 years, you know, that I've known so many people. And every time when I have conversations with like casuals, they always seem to have reservations. And I say, but what if you keep seeing the streamers that you enjoy, like really loving how this world is created? They're like, oh, well, if that happens, like I may give it a shot. I go, but even if that there's some things in there you probably won't like. And they're like, well, I'm playing a game right now where there's a lot of things I don't like. You know what I mean? And it makes
Yeah,
sense.
true.
You know what I mean? A lot of people like,
Mhm.
you know, I still play WoW even though I don't want to. And I have so many negatives about the game, but it's a comfort game. I know it, you know, and there really is another MMO that I want to play either. I've tried it all. I've tried Guild Wars 2, I've tried Final Fantasy 14, I've tried Lost Ark, I've tried, you know, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I mean, I've tried them all. You know what I mean? So right now I'm actually going to play New World when the expansion comes out, only to try out their professions, because I've heard so many good things about their gathering and crafting professions that instead of me just, you know, crapping on the game or whatever, I'm just going to try it myself. Like I want to play it just to try out those specific things. But
Yeah.
I guess, you know, to kind of bring it back, right? So when it comes to Ashes, right, I think the most like biggest feature I think that people are really wanting is the node system. So I'm really curious, like, as to you, like, you know, I'm sure you've talked about the node system in your videos and everything like that. Like, what did you think about when you heard about the node system?
So I mean, I'm like a lot of MMORPG players where I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to stuff.
Right.
On paper, it sounds awesome, but there's lots of things that sound awesome on paper.
Very true.
One as we've like learned more and more about the node system, surprisingly, I've actually had more and more like I've been more and
Skepticism.
more skeptical towards it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like for example, I think mounted, you're only 50% faster than your walking speed.
Right.
So no, that I guess that's getting off topic. But yeah, so let me just say this. Like one of the things I've been really skeptical of lately is how we're gonna traverse around this world.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we're very limited in like there's no flight paths, there's no like teleportation pads or anything. It's gonna be mainly walking, a couple like scientific node stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And um the world what I'm wondering is if we're going to be spending so much time just traveling and walking, because that's the problem with the new world. So that's why this is on my mind right now, is because you were talking about trying out new world.
Oh, okay.
The biggest problem with I think the biggest problem with new world right now is all the walking that you have to do, and it's not fun. Well, the questing isn't fun, so it makes walking to the quest even worse, you know. So maybe
Right.
if like the questing was awesome, or if you knew you were going to like some great castle siege in Ashes of Creation, the travel might be good. Um, what I think the nodes are going to turn into are they're either going to be boring and like all very similar. Maybe just the look or location is going to be the only thing really different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or there's going to be like a meta where the node that's by the best resource in the game, or some of the best resources in the game, is going to get all the attention. Um, and I just don't think they can like really balance it. And I think so. Like I have a healthy dose of like skepticism for it, but in my head, I'm like, okay, I could like dedicate myself to this town, like grow with this town, fight and like defend this town. But after playing New World, I'm like, they try to do that too, but it wasn't fun, you know. So I have to see more, I guess.
No, for sure. And with the whole recent announcement, like I think it was a month ago, I think in the last live stream where they released the brand new Alpha 2 map, or just not the Alpha 2 map, but just the new Vera map, which is now 1,200
Mm,
squared kilometers instead of the 480 we
yeah.
were originally going to get. I mean, I would
Hmm.
definitely see people's trepidation into, I thought I was going to have to travel a lot before. Like, is it going to be
Yeah.
worse now? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they kind of did say that at least on land, it's actually I think going down to like 460, and I think the 700 other kilometers was now from the water. So I think on land we're still kind of in the same boat. I think it did kind of shrink a little bit, but again,
The more water content.
with more water content. So
Yeah.
my whole thing is that, and this is also hard too, and I think this is also a really big ask, is a lot of times in games, like, look at New World. When you're traveling from point A to point B, there's nothing in between. There's nothing to grab your attention and say, oh, I was supposed to do this quest, but there's this new event that spawned. There's this rare elite that's patrolling. There's a, treasure chest. There's this, there's that, there's all these things to point B to distract you while, doing your normal stuff. For how big Ashes is going to be, to have that in every vicinity would be a nightmare to have that much kind of content. Maybe if Ashes is like 10 years in, I can definitely see that being the case. But as an initial launch, I mean, I do kind of fear that the whole UE5, this world, this area looks amazing, is going to wear off really fast if we're having to travel 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and again, even with mounts, like I think mounts are going to have to be severely tested, and especially because a lot of people are not wanting too fast of mounts, nor do they want mounts to sort of be like Guild Wars 2. And because there's a lot of different variants in Guild Wars 2 where there's like almost like a hedgehog mount where it just like spins really fast and it goes really fast in one direction, but it's hard to like turn and stuff like that. I'm down for things like that in Ashes of Creation. I think, again, people are underestimating how big this is going to be. So if we can make content just using our mounts to go from point A to point B, I mean, hell, look at a World of Warcraft Dragonflight. They're making content by you being on your dragon mount and flying to your next destination and doing the dragon riding. So I think that could also be a very good thing. And I think because we don't have like these instant teleports or instances that we're going to have to travel, I mean, hell, I wouldn't mind if a mount went 200%, especially if it's going to be a super rare mount, because then everybody's going to want to have that kind of mount, so it's going to be something that's sought after. So I don't know. I definitely do have my trepidations when it comes to the node system in general. And I think more so than anything, it's the interconnectedness that I think I am most skeptical of. Because if everything is so interconnected, if you mess up on one feature or one key feature, how is it going to affect every other thing that it's tethered to? You know what I'm saying? Then now we're on shaky ground at that point. So
I think the one thing about the node system is the late game content.
For sure.
Like they haven't talked about any other system yet to do with late game content. Like dungeons, yes, but dungeons are going to be open from the get-go, and the dungeons are going to change with the nodes. So really, nodes are the late game content. So it just makes me wonder. I feel like the majority of the world I'm going to be running past, because it's going to be too low level for me, because I'm already 50 or 60. I think their max is 50, right?
Yes, max is 50.
Yeah, so I'm going to be level 50, and I'm going to just be running to all the metropolises in Ashes, because that's where all the highest level content is.
Right.
And the only way to unlock more high level content for me to do is through node sieges. But those only happen like very seldomly, right?
Right.
So I feel like I'm just worried because it almost seems like a time gate where in order to unlock the dungeon I want to unlock, I have to wait for the metropolis to form. So it's going to take several months for us to, as a community, to build that metropolis or to tear down an existing metropolis so we can build that metropolis. So I there's just so much riding on this node system, and I really hope it works out awesome. Like,
me too.
It sounds pretty cool. Like I envision these like epic battles, like lots of events, like these nodes being huge cities, like lots to do in them, the tavern games, like there's going to be lots of like fun stuff. And it will be cool in 6 months to have some changes in the world, new metropolises, new nodes.
Hmm.
Um, I just hope it's fun enough to be my end game, you know,
Right.
like to suffice for that.
No, for sure. I mean, I think with these recent live streams, right? So we just saw the basic ranged combat. Did you get a chance to catch live
Yeah.
stream yesterday? So
Mhm.
let's talk about combat for a second, because the basic melee, the basic ranged, um, a lot of people have been wanting to see what combat was shaping up into, after Alpha
Mm.
1. Now, did you participate in the Alpha 1 content?
No, no, I didn't.
Okay, yeah, neither did I.
Unfortunately.
I did see
Yeah.
a crap ton of content regarding. I saw all
Yeah.
the streamers, I saw all the footage, the YouTube videos. Now for me personally, like, I played a hunter in WoW for almost 13 years. So I'm not saying that I am a ranger through and through. Like, I'm willing to play any class, because since I've been playing WoW, I've leveled every class up to max multiple times for almost every expansion. So I want to try out everything. Like, so for me, the basic melee combat honestly felt very reminiscent to Guild Wars 2, which I love the way the
Mhm.
Guild Wars 2 melee is. I love it. I love
Oh,
how
okay.
you don't have to really tab or have someone highlighted. If you're hacking this way, it's going to hit all the monsters in that hacking direction. And I love that when it comes to melee. But ranged, I'm not a fan of the New World approach, the free aim kind of way to do. I'm more of a tab guy. Of course, playing World of Warcraft, I'm a tab guy.
Okay.
It's not saying that I'm against action, but now seeing the range basic attacks, and I personally am totally okay with both. I love the way the tab works, and I love the way the action hybrid works as well. I know there's been some people talking about removing the soft lock, having it to be free aim. But I guess for me, have you ever played like Overwatch at all?
No, I've
No?
never been really into the
The first person shooters?
type stuff.
So I don't want people to be so stressed out with their basic attacks. I want the actual skills to come from the ability. Like, I want people's when people talk about skill cap and like you being very skillful, like, I want that to come from the actual primary class abilities, not your basic attack. Your basic
Yeah.
attack is supposed to just fill in. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be like a game changing thing. But when he was doing the snipe ability, only feedback that I have is that I personally feel the snipe ability should be an action only ability. And I think it should be like an aim shot, to where if you're going to snipe something, the only way you can use that ability is in action mode, and hell, have it even be free aim. Like, I don't care, but I think there should be, because the way Steven talked back in the past is that there was going to be tab abilities and there was going to be action abilities. And there was possibly even being abilities that catered to both, where you can use this ability and you can either use it in tab or action. But I honestly feel that the best way to go is to have, probably for all the classes, certain abilities that are locked strictly for action. So when you're choosing your abilities, if you're an action person, then you can choose to pick all the action-oriented abilities. However, it may be quite cumbersome because you're having to aim pretty much on every ability. So if you like that, go right ahead. But you may want to intertwine some of those tab abilities. That way, if you want to kite, that way, if you want to get away, there is some abilities that you can just tab target, boom, just shoot. And that way, whenever you want to play that like 5-head giga play, you can use your snipe way back there, because it's a snipe. Maybe you have a 50-yard range and you're free aiming and just boom, headshot. You know what I mean? Like, that to me should
that's
be
what WoW's doing, right? That's what WoW's basically doing.
They've been doing that now with more of the like the reticle abilities, right? There's like abilities that are in cones, or like it goes down a line or whatever, similar to like when the ranger did their flip aerial attack, which was so freaking cool. That's what WoW's been doing. They've been doing more action-y abilities that you have to basically place in a certain direction, and if you do them incorrectly, it doesn't go off, which I mean, but the WoW has been slowly adding more abilities in that fashion. similar to Hunter's new explosive shot. You have to hit the ability to let it go, and then you have to hit it again to detonate the explosion. So it's a skill-based ability. So if you don't hit it again, it just goes off into nether and you just wasted the ability. So I think people are just wanting more skill-based abilities. So I'm just curious, like, what did you think about the whole basic ranged, combat that we saw?
Yeah, so I had a really hard time, because I only saw 3 ranger abilities. I have a really hard time not judging the whole class or, like, the whole play style or the ceiling cap, because there was, like, no ceiling cap. It was just spam buttons and dodge and run away from
Right.
the guys. So, I think I think if we're strictly talking about the auto attacks, because I think that's what the video was mainly about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I felt like it was a little so overall, I feel like it's a little too fast. I really like the direction they're going with mobility and like being free to move, and maybe some attacks slow you down a little bit, but you're still able to like move and jump around. I'm okay with that. So I've watched a lot of Guild Wars 2 type stuff, but I've never played it myself. And Guild Wars 2 seems a little too flashy, a little too anime. It's like a little too like, yeah, like I don't know, it's almost like ninja. It's like a ranger's a ninja, a wizard's a ninja. Like it kind of has like that feeling and snappy pace to it.
Mm-hmm.
And while I like the more, I was saying this on stream the other day, but I think I like the more like Dungeons and Dragons, like
The aesthetic.
maybe a little bit,
for sure.
yeah, like a little bit slower pace, like
More
a
methodical.
little bit more, maybe methodical. I love the idea of mobility, and I love how he could like run and jump and shoot with the archer. But like a little bit more grounded, and I think grounded, not as flashy, more grounded. I don't want to say realistic because it's a fantasy MMORPG. You're supposed to be able to shoot.
Very true.
And do like crazy stuff, and the wizard should be able to like blink and teleport and
right.
But like just the feeling a little bit more grounded, less flashy. So my thought about I actually thought that the melee was worse than the ranged attacks. So the melee seemed way too flashy and snappy.
Okay.
The movement and the weight of the attacks all felt good, but I think it was the animations that made it seem like he had a huge greatsword and he was attacking like every second, and that seems too like fast and flashy and like a magical sort of greatsword. I don't know. It seemed it was losing a little bit of realism for me, and it made me think of Guild Wars 2, and I was like, oh man, this is like 100% from Guild Wars 2. And I didn't like it as much. I like the idea that you can attack multiple enemies and it's action based, but I guess the speed and the animation I didn't really like.
Well, I kind of think of like a warrior in World of Warcraft dual wielding Armageddon, which is like a huge, two-handed sword, and you're just rampage, raging blow, and it's nutty, like how fast that is. So I guess for me, I'm kind of used to that in that sense. So I didn't really mind it.
Yesterday in my live stream, I kept biting my tongue because I'd be like, I don't know if I like this. And then I thought about World of Warcraft. And I was like, oh, but World of Warcraft's even more extreme. Like, think about
it really is.
I was like, are they shooting too fast? Like, I feel like they're shooting like crazy, like all the time in the ranged combat. And then I was like, well, just think of like in World of Warcraft, you have like 17 arrows all flying in the air at one time. So so I kept biting my tongue and being like, oh, okay, like, I guess I have enjoyed this in the past, like, this sort of speed of things with World of Warcraft.
I think the thing that I was talking earlier in my guild in Axiom, and, we don't know what kind of bow he was using. Was it an epic endgame bow? Was it a starter level 3 bow? What level was Steven? It doesn't even matter what level Steven is because he has god powers. Like, he can be as strong as infinite as he wants to be in the game. So, and he can also be as fast and as dodgy. I mean, he was literally, I think that aerial ability was a 2-second cooldown. But again, even they said it on stream that these aren't finalized. This is just to show the presentation of these abilities and how to work it. So it's a very unauthentic experience that we're gonna have in Alpha 2, because we're gonna have the long
Yeah.
cooldowns. We're gonna not have the awesome bow that he had. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of things that are going to be are probably more slowed down.
Mhm.
But it's so hard to give specific feedback on something like that, and I think that's been my biggest issue. And
Yeah.
a lot of
Where
the
they're like, this isn't complete.
right.
The cooldowns, the animations, the abilities, like none of this is actually gonna stay. You're like, well, then what do I comment on?
I know, right? And that's the biggest thing that I've heard a lot of the people in Axiom say is like, well,
Yeah.
if we don't know, like, are you using just a level 5 template, or are you mixing and matching some godlike stuff with like some regular stuff, and like, is this the normal
Yeah.
damage we're going to be doing? Like, what level are you? What level is the monsters? Like, we don't know. We're just, all we're trying to get is the feel. And to me,
Right.
looking at World of Warcraft and comparing it to, like, let's say classic WoW, if you were a hunter, you got a 2.7 speed bow, all you were doing was every 2.7 seconds, and it was slow, it was unengaging.
Mhm.
But again, back in 2006, 2005, it was fun as hell, because what was the MMOs at that time? You know what I mean? But in 2022,
Yeah.
we want more engagement. We want more. So I would personally rather take the speed that we saw with far less damage, because Steven was like one-shotting some of these monsters almost.
Yeah.
I would take the speed, but just make it very tiny in damage. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
think the one thing that I personally want is to keep it to be mobile and keep it to be engaging. That's like the biggest thing
Yeah.
that I saw. And honestly, the whole time I watched Steven, I was engaged watching, and I couldn't even imagine actually doing it myself, because it probably would have been
Right.
more
It looked
engaging.
awesome.
Yeah, it looked great.
It looked fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I want to have captured, is the fun aspect, right? Is I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of classes and other MMOs, not saying aren't fun, but it's like, what's the point of these abilities that I'm using? Like, I don't see where the fun factor is, like, in some of these abilities.
Yeah.
And again, like, I feel like the thing that Ashley needs to do is to really look at these abilities to see, is this a tab ability? Should this be an action ability? Like, how can we hybridize these things? You know what I mean? So that's sort of like
Mhm.
what I kind of got from, but I kind of want you to elaborate a little bit more on the melee attack and why you kind of disliked it a little bit. Like, because I know for me, when I saw it, and I know we talked a little bit about it, right, with the whole like Armageddons and World of Warcraft and stuff like that. But are you primarily a melee user in MMOs, or are you a range person normally?
I'm primarily a melee person.
Oh, okay. So do you play like warrior, rogue, you know,
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
thing? Oh, okay. Because yeah,
Warrior, rogue.
I
Yeah.
love freaking warrior. I've played a fury warrior in Cataclysm. I played it in WoD.
Mm.
So yeah, I love me some warrior. Are you wanting the at least the two-handed greatsword? Are you wanting it to be similar to, like, let's say like a game like Elden Ring, to where there is severe weight, and also you can't just swing that thing like a hack and slash kind of game?
Yeah. So with both of these videos, I was extremely critical. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying with, they told us over and over, oh, this is not the final thing. We just wanted to show off our progress, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's hard to comment on. And I was trying to give like really specific feedback, which was hard to do.
No, for sure.
And the 2 points of specific feedback of why, because I was trying to be critical and like think like, why do I not like this feel? And I think the number one is how snappy it is. So we went like frame by frame in my live stream, and the sword would like get to the enemy, and then it would teleport past the enemy with like a huge arc of yellow gold like flash, you know?
Right.
And I think it was like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. It seemed like it was just too fast in the swing. The windup was perfect. Everything was perfect, but it had that like really snappy feeling that I don't like in Guild Wars. You know, where it kind of like a little bit anime, where it just like flashed through them. I mean, biting my tongue again, like
It's
WoW's
okay.
pretty similar. Like WoW, there's like literally zero feedback. Basically, you're just like swinging
Right.
and going through them. So it's not that I won't like it. I was trying to give like critical feedback of like this like feeling. It seemed a little too snappy and flashy. And then the second bit of feedback was just the animations, like the yellow flashes of light were a little too overwhelming. Like I felt like it was just a lightsaber instead of like a sword, you know?
I do kind of agree with the whole like trail of the golden light. I think was a little over exaggerated. I don't mind it in certain ways that it hits like at the end, at the
Yeah.
tail end. But you know, if you're going to create a hack and slash kind of experience, you know, less
Mhm.
is more. At least in my opinion, when
Yeah.
it comes to the animation, the flashiness, the spell effects, especially in a hack and slash game, because if you're
Mhm.
going to be doing it all the time, the last thing you want is to look like a rave. You know, like you're in a black light
Yeah.
rave and stuff where it's like all these lights and colors and stuff. Like you
Well,
just
they
want
prefaced it like this is a normal two-handed longsword and this
right.
is normal daggers, you know? The daggers were a lot better because they weren't flashy. It kind of just had like the blur effect, which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
But if it was like an epic legendary sword and like that's then it's okay to be flashy because you want everyone on the battlefield to know, oh shoot, that guy is gonna like smash us
Did you
with that
say
crazy
Thunder
sword.
Fury? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying that there isn't a place for it. Um, I was kind of approaching it from they're just a basic sword attack.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, and again, I Intrepid, y'all really need to be very specific as to what you guys want as far as feedback, because it's
Hmm.
really hard for us people that are trying to really, you know, analyze what we can say about this, because I feel like, oh, you know, like I don't want us to give feedback and they're like, oh, but there's another ability that you're not aware of, you know, that it slows your
Yeah.
character down, but we didn't show that to you guys, so we can't really look at that feedback seriously because you just didn't know. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there's
Hmm.
all these kind of ancillary back end things or abilities that you're not wanting to discuss. Like, you guys need to be so very clear as to what you guys want specific feedback on, because it makes it easier for us to identify, oh, okay, like that's specifically like that they want us to get feedback strictly on this thing right here. You know, when you're making
Yeah.
it such an overarching picture, like it's really hard um to look at it like in that fashion. It's almost like walking into an argument and, you know, a guy or a girl just slapped a guy and you're just like,
Yeah.
what the hell happened? And it's just like, and you're supposed to analyze it just based on what you just saw right when you walked in. You don't know the context, the pretext, what happened after or whatever. You just have to analyze it in the moment. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's
Sure.
what it is a lot of the times when it comes to like, especially combat, you know, like, I don't know, like it just, I really wish they were just a little bit more specific in regards to like when they say, oh, we're looking for feedback and da 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 da. Because I look at the forums, and I don't know if you went to visit the Ashes of Creation forums recently, but the feedback is just sort of, I don't know, a little all over the place. And I feel like if I was
Yeah.
Vacnar, like Cody, oh my God, I would feel so bad. Because it's like, well, can't take
Yeah.
that comment, can't take that comment. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
just say what you guys are looking
Well,
for.
it brings up the classic problem of people are really good at knowing when something's off or when they don't like something, but they're
Right.
really bad at knowing a solution for it, right? So,
Correct.
and because it's so general, they're getting like a million different directions. Uh, yeah. So I think that's the problem they're running into. Everyone's trying to provide like what the solution is instead of just saying, I don't know if I love the animation during this second and this second. Like if you say I didn't like this chunk, then they can like go and analyze it and think about it and
S-
get all their guys on it.
So I'm just really curious, like,
Yeah.
what system would you want them to kind of highlight? Like, have you been waiting for a sort of system that you're like, man, I really want them to talk about X system?
Yeah. So I kind of said at the beginning of this, but the systems like make it or break it for me.
Oh,
So
for sure.
I told you that like story with like World of Warcraft. The reason I was like so excited about it is because I feel like I was gaming the system and I
Mhm.
felt like I was taking advantage of the markets and all the professions to like work towards a goal of getting the most expensive mount in World of Warcraft, you
Right.
know? Um, so so yeah, I'm really interested in seeing all the crafting systems. Obviously, the biggest one that I'm interested in is actually the naval content because I've never really played naval content before.
Me neither.
So I'm really interested in seeing how that turns out.
And he talks about it so in depth. Every single time I hear him talk about like the Mariner classes, and I'm like, okay, there's actual classes for naval that you can actually
Yeah.
specialize in. And then there's going to be like the way they talked about, I remember they were talking about this, the ship anatomy, and he was talking about, oh, on the underdeck, we want it to be as like, you know, clear as possible. So when people are running back and forth, I'm like, I mean, because I know some of these ships, these galleons are going to be huge. They're going to be 40-man ships. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see, like, is everybody on that ship going to have a job or like something to do, or like, what is
I think
this?
he's
Like,
modeling it after Guild Wars, right? Guild Wars 2
I don't think Guild Wars 2 has naval.
or Guild Wars 3. You don't think it has naval?
I don't think so. I mean, I'd never played
Oh,
Guild Wars 2 in a way that was like all the way to end game, but to my
hmm.
Arc Age was a game, and that's a game that Steven's
Arcade.
played.
There we go. That was it.
That's had naval. Lineage 2, I don't know. I've never played Lineage 2. It could have naval. I mean, the two main inspirations for why he created Ash's Creation was Arc Age and Lineage 2. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm in your boat. I've never played any naval. I played Lost Ark. Lost Ark does have naval, but it's
I mean,
literally
you're
just
not in my boat because
yeah.
you've never done the boat stuff before. Got
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's in naval in Lost Ark is just so bearable. It's ancillary. Like you have like yourself, and you can get like 2 NPC crewmen to like give you buffs to your ship, and then you just sail. Like it's all right. I mean, it's not what I kind of imagined. You know what I mean? And it's really hard to get immersed in a game that's like top down the way Lost Ark is.
Right.
Like I'm more of the kind of 3D third person kind of dimension.
Yeah.
But I know for me, the system that I'm like really like looking forward to is the like actually them going in depth with the talent system. I really want to see what the class talent system, the weapon talent system, the active talent system, like all the systems when it comes to classes, because to me, that's what makes it or breaks it for me as an individual. Because what I value, and when I started to hop to other MMOs outside of WoW, is I couldn't really go into Final Fantasy that deeply. I did play it for the story, and I loved the freaking story of Shadowbringers. I played all of it, but the class, there's no customization to the classes. The classes are what they are. Every class is the same as anyone else. There is no customization. Lost Ark, you have the tripod system, and the tripod system just, it feels so basic and ancillary, and it doesn't make me feel unique at all. It doesn't make me feel like I'm really customizing my thing. So I really learned really quickly, I love customization. I love customizing my classes. And, you know, playing classic WoW and doing the old school talent trees, man, I love it. I love, like, if I want to be a complete crazy person and be like a holy paladin retribution hybrid, and not even go into like my bottom stuff, but just go completely in the center, I can do that. You know, I have complete control as to how I want to talent my class, and I love it. It's almost similar to like Path of Exile. I don't know if you ever played Path of Exile, but Path of Exile has a huge talent system, and it feels so good to kind of just carve your own path in that entire system. So I just really, really want to see what kind of direction the talent systems are going to go in. I hope they're not as ancillary as they were in Alpha 1, because, you know, looking at some of the active, I mean, it looked very rudimentary. It looked almost like the way retail WoW is now, with like their, you know, 3 choices of their tiers or whatever. And I don't know. I don't want it to be that basic. I want it to be kind of like what Dragonflight is doing. You know what I mean? Where there's like trees of abilities, and you kind of pick which way you want to go and stuff. Like that to me is what really sets me off. So
yeah, I love the customization thing. Like I brought up Dungeons and Dragons. I've just been playing like Pathfinder too, and it's all about character customization, different directions you can go. I love that feeling, and I love Path of Exile as well. I love those things. The That actually brings up a point from last night's live stream. So he mentioned that every single class is going to have a melee weapon and a ranged weapon.
Yes.
And my gut reaction was I did not like that because it takes away class fantasy. Like, and he made it sound like when I shoot the bow as a ranger, I'm gonna do the same damage as if a warrior shoots a bow. That bow, right? But my abilities might build into those auto attacks, but the bow itself does more damage or the same damage. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that a guy could be running at you with like a shield, and then like when he gets to you, all of a sudden he whips out his staff and he's like a mage. Like maybe that's kind of cool customization, but I feel like that should be a class. That should be a paladin, like a magic sword wielding thing. I don't know. And it made me think, like, what if you're sieging a castle? Everyone's just gonna sit on top of the castle with all their bows, all the warriors, all the melee people are just gonna shoot you with bows, and you're just gonna like run to the castle as far as you can. And then when you get to the gates of the castle, they're gonna whip out their actual good weapon or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know if I liked that gameplay. Like I want the people that are ranged spellcasters or archers to be the ones doing that. And I want the tanks to be tanks,
I don't know if it's going to go that deep, personally. I mean, back in classic WoW, a warrior could use a bow. It doesn't mean like they can use to pull stuff with it, but it wasn't something they used primarily. And even with melee weapons, mages could use melee weapons in classic WoW. It didn't mean that they used them primarily. It just means that, hey, if I ever needed to whack someone with my stick, my two-handed staff or something, I can do that. What I'm really curious about is the way he talked about the weapon talent tree, because the way he was talking in the ranged combat was you'll be able to talent specifically to bows and manipulate your basic weapon attack, to how you would want to, depending on the choices of that bow talent tree.
Right.
And that to me is what I am way more interested in, because if I'm a mage and my fantasy is to be a sword and board wand mage, well, what kind of abilities could I get with a one-handed sword as a mage? Like what would my basic melee attack looks like as a mage? You know what I mean? So because there could be a mage tank archetype, you know what I mean? So I'm really curious to see like how are they going to make that feasible for a class that's traditionally ranged and traditionally you don't want to tank on, you know what I mean? So it's going to be very interesting. And I think that's what kind of really gives me trepidation and a little bit of being scared. But so far, at least for me, everything that Intrepid has shown has blown me out of the water. Like I love it. Like, and as much as I have trepidation on like the nodes, the naval, the whole interconnectedness, they've always managed to surprise me and calm my nerves down. So again, I think we're going to have to really go into the weeds when it comes to like, testing in Alpha 2. And I guess that could lead to my next question. When do you think Alpha 2 is going to be?
It's going to be next year. I think it's going to be pretty similar timing, maybe a little bit later. I say like April next year is my guess.
Do you think that in December's live stream for our kind of Christmas present, they can announce the date of Alpha 2?
That'd be pretty cool. They did something similar to that last time, I think, too.
Right.
But
yeah, and it was in I think it was in 2020 that they did that. Because Alpha 1's testing was from July to August of 2021. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Or go ahead.
Summer next year, probably.
I hope it's not the summer. I mean, if it is, it is, right? But I'm just so really wanting to get into this stupid Alpha 2 to like really test like all the things that we need to kind of test on. So I guess
I think that's I just want to say I think what you said before is pretty good for like the moral of our conversation. There's a lot of things we're skeptical about, and we have opinions and we're having a hard time giving them like specifics because they keep telling us this is not specifically what it's going to be like. So how can they give us the specifics? But then the overall feeling is every time I see an update, I think the reason they show us the update is just to show us the direction they're headed and the progress they're making. And so far, I really like the progress and the direction they're heading. Like, I think there's still more work to do. And I feel like obviously I got to get my hands on it to give more and more specific feedback. But yeah, I'm really happy with the progress. Every time I see something they release, I'm like, man, this is even better than I was expecting. So,
For sure, for sure. And I guess, Adam, to just kind of wrap up our conversation, because I always say this, but I can't imagine we've already been talking for almost an hour. Like, what would you tell someone who is a casual that may be interested in Ashes of Creation?
it's funny because I'm actually sort of working on a video of all the things why I think you wouldn't want to play Ashes of Creation. So
Okay.
so change so changing my mindset to like why would a casual like it?
Right.
There's gonna be a lot of content to do at all levels. It sounds like they really have a focus at not gating content behind a certain character level,
Mm-hmm.
and your progressions can out level your character. Like you could just be, I don't know, you could just be someone who gathers and you never gain a level, and you could just be doing professions. There's going to be lots of role playing stuff, and that's great for casuals because
True.
you don't need to like farm anything or put any time into it. You can just hop into the tavern and play and hang out.
True. True.
And another good thing for casuals is if you can only play once a week on weekends or a couple times a week, well, the world is going to be constantly changing. Different seasons each week, different nodes, different content. So every time you come back, it's going to be new and fresh, and it's going to be new and fresh for everyone. So you're not going to feel like you're behind because this node fell and everyone's behind. You know, we're all trying to catch up and build on a new node. So
That's
that's what I would
actually
say.
that's a really good answer, because I think, especially if you're playing very casual, you play one day, and let's say you're with your family the next couple of days, wherever you play on the weekend, like from Tuesday to Saturday, so much could change regardless of like node levels increasing, content opening up, and then you come back and it's like, holy crap, I was doing this, and now like my node's level 4, and we're over here, and there's people doing this dungeon that just opened up. There's a new world
Yeah.
boss over here. There's new rare elites. There's events. There's all this stuff, and I think ultimately that's the point that I really want Ashes to be at. When you log in and there is because most of the time games are so predictable. Like you log in and oh, I just want to do gathering because I know there's not going to be other events happening that are going to be worth my while. So when I log in, I'm just going to go do some gathering. I really want Ashes to really promote this sort of like, there's just so much that is happening that you might want to take part in that you maybe don't want to miss out on. And I really like that approach. And I think as a casual, it lends itself that, let's say you didn't want to go gathering, you go and gather. And like we were talking earlier about point A to point B, as you're going to point B, there are these things that are coming up, along your path that are like, dude, maybe I should do this. Maybe there's a caravan that's just over there. Should I defend it? Should I attack it? What should I do? You know what I mean? So I really, really love that approach, especially like as a casual person, because I feel like for casuals, if they really look at it in that way, there's going to be so much for them to actually be able to do in Ashes of Creation comparatively to
Right.
any other MMO.
Well, I don't think casuals are worried about there not being enough to do, right? It's the opposite. They feel like there's too much to do and they're falling behind, right? So I
True.
think I th- I think that's what I was bringing out. Man, I'm gonna murder someone if this fly doesn't leave me alone. But
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. So I think for key points for casuals, that's what I was bringing up, like RP. Um, when things reset, when like there's a new season or a Metropolis falls, everyone's back to a lower level building something. And so I think there's going to be a feeling of we're all working all the time on stuff, and you're going to be working with us. even if you're
Right.
only level 5. So there's gonna be plenty to do. Yeah, and that's awesome. It's always gonna be different. That's really cool. But just know it's gonna be that way for everyone. So you're not behind, I guess, in anything.
No, for sure, for sure. Adam, dude,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
And dude, honestly, congratulations. I don't know if I can say what happened, but I just want to say congratulations to what happened in your life, because
Oh, thank you.
that's
Yeah.
really awesome, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem,
I
man.
appreciate it.
And
Well, I'm really glad that you invited me. It was a good talk.
dude,
I
for
was
sure.
It's good to hear someone else's perspective on this and like talk things over because yeah, you pointed out some things that wow were really useful to me. So
Oh no, for sure, man. I mean, again, I that's why I love doing this, because I know a lot of podcasts out there want to have like 4 people, like, and it's all crazy and there's a lot of passion going back and forth. But I'm more of like, I like to be intimate. I like the whole Joe Rogan approach of like podcasting and really talking to someone and getting their expertise on it. Why do they
sure.
do it? Why are they passionate about it? And I would love to talk to you whenever Alpha 2 goes live and you've been in the game for a month or so, and then we can talk about what you've been doing in Alpha 2. Like, what do you like? What do you dislike? And we can really get into some pretty awesome discussions then, because it's really hard to talk now about stuff because we haven't really tangibly done it yet. But once we get in there, it's gonna be a whole different story. So
For sure. Yep.
you are more than
Well,
welcome to
if
come
it
back.
comes out,
What do you mean if
yeah,
it comes out? It is gonna come out.
I feel like it's sure taking its sweet time, but yeah, it'll be exciting.
No, for sure, man. And again, where can people find you? Like, I believe you have Twitter, YouTube, Twitch.
Yeah, best places on YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube and Twitch, Adam Baird,
Okay.
Baird.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will leave those links in the description below if you want to follow Adam and his content. He also does a lot of amazing Blender videos. If you're a fan of like
Mhm.
the Blender program, he has like one of your videos hit like millions of views. Did it not?
Yeah, I think it's at like 1.6 million
Right. Yeah,
now,
dude.
which is pretty cool.
Congratulations, man. I did see that video.
Thanks.
It was awesome. And I enjoy it. I just love, because
Thanks.
I'm not really gifted in that way, especially when it comes to like, computer technology. So just seeing someone being able
Mhm.
to explain all that stuff, like it's really fascinating for someone like me. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. And again, if you like this podcast or you like this episode, hit the thumbs up. It helps me out greatly with the YouTube algorithm and trying to get this 1v1 podcast out to more and more people. Again, subscribe so you never miss a 1v1 episode. My name is Vlhadus. That is Adam Baird. Sorry. And we will see you guys.
Or Bard.
Or Bart. We will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, guys.